Yeah, Haley, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement now says it plans to deport Garcia to Eswatini.
Okay, by now everyone has heard of Kilmar Obrego Garcia, also known as the Maryland Man. But the question is, has anyone heard of the country of Eswatini, Africa? Because this is where Homeland Security is prepared to send him for deportations.
Fox News has obtained an email ICE sent to Kilmar Obrego Garcia's lawyers this afternoon, notifying them that ICE now plans to deport him to the tiny African country of Eswatini.
And we will dig into the email because these are the countries where Kilmar Obrego Garcia does not want to go in fear of persecution. So it looks like the Trump administration just said, okay, you don't want to go here. We found this country in Africa. I think you'll be safe there. We're going to dig into all of this because this story has really been developing in a direction that I don't think anyone saw coming. Now, before we start the video, make sure to please like the video. It's the #1 way you guys are helping this channel, but it also helps others see the videos as well. And at the very least, we all get to learn about the country of Eswatini, Africa, located at the southern portion of the continent.
Officials had also previously threatened to deport Garcia to Uganda, but Garcia's attorney said he was afraid of being tortured there. In today's announcement, ICE said Obrego Garcia's fears could, quote, not be taken seriously because he claims to be afraid of being sent to at least 22 other countries.
Okay, before we get to the country of Eswatini and why Kilmar is being deported there, we have to remember he was supposed to be deported to Uganda. So what exactly happened? Okay, I am so curious how you guys feel about this. Here's what happened. Basically, the list you see right here, these are all of the countries where Kilmar Obrego Garcia does not feel safe. He feels like he will be persecuted. And I mean, we have Guatemala, Honduras, Panama, Argentina, Chile. These are countries where people go on vacation to. And so Homeland Security sent this letter to Kilmar Obrego Garcia and said this: the claim of fear is hard to take seriously, especially given that you have claimed through your attorneys that you fear persecution or torture in at least 22 different countries. Those countries include all of these. So here's what they said. Nonetheless, we hereby notify that your new country of removal is Eswatini, Africa.
The Trump administration said last month that it would remove 30-year-old Obrego Garcia to Uganda, but a judge ruled that the government could not take away his right to criminal trial, and on August 25th forbade the federal government from removing him from the U.S.
If you haven't already, make sure to please subscribe to my channel so I can keep you guys up to date with the Kilmar Obrego Garcia story. I've been covering it since day one, and here we are. I literally said in my last video, I really think Uganda was going to become an issue, and it obviously is. So now we're going all the way down to Eswatini. But why Eswatini? Okay, so first things first, have you even heard of Eswatini? And I want to point this out. Even on Fox, they said, ICE tells Kilmar Obrego Garcia he'll be deported to tiny African country. They didn't even use the word Eswatini. They said tiny African country. I just want to point that out. But when it comes to Eswatini, it's actually relatively safe. When you look at the travel advisory, it's a #2. It's not on a do not travel. It's not on a reconsider travel. It's relatively safe with the #2, exercise increased caution, which, by the way, you should always have increased caution anywhere you go. The other main reason why I think Eswatini was chosen is because all of these countries on this list to the Trump administration already doesn't make any sense. You said you don't want to go to Costa Rica. You said you don't want to go to Uganda. You obviously don't want to go to El Salvador, but every single country here, now you're saying you're being persecuted. So I really think the Trump administration said, you know what? We're just going to pick a random country, Eswatini. What do you think about Eswatini?
The email went on to say that Obrego Garcia has claimed to fear prosecution or torture in at least 22 countries, including much of Central and South America. The agencies say his concerns are, quote, hard to take seriously. Now, the Associated Press reports that in July, the U.S. deported 5 men with criminal backgrounds to the southern African kingdom there of Eswatini in July and sent 8 others to South Sudan. Rwanda has said that it will receive up to 250 migrants deported from the U.S.
Okay, so this is another crucial detail. For the Kilmar Obrego Garcia defense team, this is bad news because Eswatini already has a relationship with the United States as far as these deportations. So when I say the United States just picked a random country like Eswatini, this is relevant to the Kilmar Obrego Garcia case because he has already been offered to go to Costa Rica. But there's a really big reason as to why Kilmar doesn't want to go to Costa Rica. If he says, yes, I go to Costa Rica, he will be found guilty for his human smuggling charges. So that's why he's not saying yes to Costa Rica. So the U.S. is having to pick these random countries, or random to us, but to the U.S., they have worked with Eswatini before, which is why it's now on the list for him to be deported. And by the way, just to point out, yes, Costa Rica is on the list of places where Kilmar Obrego Garcia does not want to go. And by the way, I am very curious. Have any of you ever gone on vacations here, or have you been to this country? I mean, Costa Rica, like, people go there all the time. So again, I think the general perception here, let me know if I'm wrong. I really think people are seeing this and they're like, okay, hold on. You're afraid of every country? Again, I really don't think this looks good for Kilmar Obrego Garcia, because the Kilmar Obrego Garcia defense team keeps saying he's done nothing wrong. But the Trump administration is saying, if you've done nothing wrong, why are you afraid of all of these countries? Again, I'm just trying to give an accurate representation here. And I also want to be very clear. Kilmar has the right to say all of this. He has the absolute right in our country to say, I don't feel safe here, I don't want to go here. But on the flip side, the Trump administration also has the right to deport him.
The Trump administration mistakenly deported Garcia to his home country of El Salvador earlier this year, but eventually brought him back here to Tennessee to face human trafficking charges. ICE has been trying to deport him again ever since. Officials had also previously threatened to deport Garcia to Uganda, but Garcia's attorney said he was afraid of being tortured there. In today's announcement, ICE said Obrego Garcia's fears could, quote, not be taken seriously because he claims to be afraid of being sent to at least 22 other countries.
Okay, so like I always do in my videos, I found where the prison is where Kilmar could be sent to in Eswatini. And I'm just going to be honest with you, holy cow, this place does not look like the best place or where I would want to go. But let us remember, Kilmar Obrego Garcia was in the country illegally. He has a deportation order. Where the Trump administration really messed up was that initial deportation. I don't think the Trump administration anticipated all of these judges would jump on the case and say, no, you can't do that, turn the plane around, things like that. And this is how we got here. And again, I want to remind you guys, Kilmar could go to Costa Rica right now, but that would mean he is guilty to the human smuggling charges. So this is what the prison looks like. I can give you guys an overhead view. I can't get into the prison, but just to show you, that's the entrance and this is the surrounding area. Let's just go ahead and walk down here. This is Eswatini, beautiful African country. I would love to go to Africa one day for real. But yeah, this is where Kilmar might get sent to, guys. And to be honest with you, again, I'm just going to be honest. I really do think this is the Trump administration saying, okay, we've given you all these options. How about Eswatini? Do you want to go there? And let me give you guys the overhead view of Eswatini's maximum security prison. Okay, and here is the prison from the top view. It's a pretty big prison. I'm not obviously able to get in there or see the pictures, but yeah, according to Kilmar Obrego Garcia's defense team, he also feels persecution here. Now, I don't know the exact wording, why he specifically feels persecution in Eswatini, but to me, I really do think the messaging from the Trump administration heavily is in their favor. Now they're like, hey, look, Kilmar's afraid of all of these countries to include Eswatini. Have you ever heard of Eswatini? How could he be afraid of Eswatini? Messaging is a massive factor when it comes to this, especially when it comes to policies. Many Americans agree with deportations, and when Americans see that an illegal immigrant who's supposed to be deported doesn't want to go to all of these countries and Eswatini, again, I really don't think this looks good for the Kilmar Obrego Garcia defense team, but they do still have a chance. They have a chance where Kilmar might not be deported. I want to talk about that for a second. Okay, so this right here is really the last-ditch effort for the Kilmar team to keep him in the United States, basically seeking asylum. Now, there is a reason why I think the Kilmar team wants to really seek asylum. I'll get to that in a second. But first, to even qualify for asylum, you have to make it to the country of the United States first. And for a lot of people who actually qualify for asylum, this is already the hardest step. Number two, you make it through this journey of getting to the United States, the very, very first thing you have to do is apply for asylum. Because if you wait after a year, you already don't even qualify for asylum, which Kilmar does not qualify. He has been in the United States for over a year and has not put in for the asylum paperwork. Number two, this is the other really hard part. You have to prove that you will be an upstanding citizen, that you have no issues, you have no criminal history. You have to prove that. And of course, as we know, the public perception of Kilmar right now is not that good. He is squeaky clean, considerably speaking. When you look at his actual paperwork, he has no criminal history, yet he is in the middle of a human smuggling charge. So that alone could also get him in trouble to not qualify. And number three, Kilmar actually has to prove that he qualifies for asylum because he was persecuted in his home country, or, he doesn't feel safe unless he's in the United States. This is quite the uphill battle for the Kilmar team. I'm just being honest. He has every right to try and put in for asylum, but even for people who really come from super persecuted countries and have been through the worst of the worst, even they don't qualify for asylum at times. In fact, let me show you. Imagine you are in Afghanistan. You live on the side of a mountain. You are persecuted. Maybe you're a Christian. You're like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta make it to the United States. You have to go through all of this while trying to survive. I'm really trying to paint the picture here of why for Kilmar Obrego Garcia, I really do think this is going to be impossible, but they're still trying it. For Afghan nationals, they even have to put in within a year to sign up for this. There's even an informational video for people seeking asylum from Afghanistan. Like, the United States takes this very serious. You have to put in for within 1 year. And while we're here, I just want to see what exactly you have to do as an Afghan national or anyone seeking asylum. And remember, Kilmar has to do this exact same thing, and he's already missed this important step.
USCIS is expediting asylum applications for Afghan nationals paroled under Operation Allies Welcome. You may apply for asylum if you have been persecuted or fear that you will be persecuted in your home country.
And this is what Kilmar's team is arguing, that there will be fear if I go to my home country, I will be persecuted, which is why he was flown back. But the question from the Trump administration is like, okay, we understand you don't feel safe there, that's cool. But the other countries, that's where we don't get it. And I don't have a response from the Kilmar team as to why he feels persecuted there. I'm waiting for that. And I'm really trying to give Kilmar and his team a fair chance because, again, legally speaking, whether you guys like it or not, don't get mad at me. He has the right to say what he's saying and do what he's doing.
Based on your nationality, race, religion, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion. You must apply for asylum within 1 year of your last arrival to the United States, unless you can show changed circumstances that materially affect your eligibility for asylum, or extraordinary circumstances directly related to the delay in filing your asylum application.
Now, the main argument the Kilmar team is using is that the Trump administration is not giving Kilmar a fair chance. They tried to put a gag order on the Trump administration. Basically, everything Trump is saying, Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, Stephen Miller, everything they're saying, the Kilmar team is using it as an argument to say, we're not getting a fair chance, the public perception is changing, and for Kilmar to have a fair trial, which he has the right to do, it's not fair. So I'm just trying to say, everything the Trump admin is saying is being used in favor of Kilmar in order to apply for asylum and to keep fighting this case to be deported.
If you don't apply within the 1 year filing deadline, you may still apply for asylum. USCIS will accept your application and consider whether you have established changed or extraordinary circumstances and whether your delay in filing your application was reasonable given your circumstances.
And of course, we're in that extraordinary circumstance.
For example, as a parolee under Operation Allies Welcome, you may be eligible for the extraordinary circumstances exemption to the 1-year filing deadline if you file for asylum while your parole is still valid. If you file for asylum after your parole expires, you may still qualify for an exception to the 1-year filing deadline if you filed for asylum within a reasonable period of time after the expiration of your parole.
And again, this is quite an issue for the Kilmar team. He's been here well over the 1-year mark. This is why I keep saying this is going to be an uphill battle. But this also shows that the U.S. is not as cruel as it's portrayed for illegal immigrants. They understand if you're like a mother with a kid, you don't even speak English, how are you going to know about this process? The U.S. actually is not as cruel as they think. And I think this is actually a great program to say, hey, look, if you're like reasonably over a year, like maybe a few months, that's fine. But for Kilmar's team, it's been well over a year now.
The form you will use to apply for asylum is Form I-589, Application for Asylum and for Withholding of Removal, which is available on USCIS's website at uscis.gov/I-589. In addition to asylum, you may also pursue other immigration pathways, such as a special immigrant visa, temporary protected status, or an adjustment of status based on an immigrant petition, or any other benefit or protection for which you may be eligible.
Okay, so again, the Kilmar team is basically weighing out all of their options, and of course the asylum side of things looks like the best case for Kilmar. Now, here's why I actually think the Kilmar team might be doing this. This is my personal opinion. I really do think one of the reasons why seeking asylum is good for the Kilmar team is because if he gets accepted, that's awesome. He's in the country, that's it, case over, you can't deport him. But number two, Kilmar's waiting period for asylum is quite a while. The last numbers I saw, or the research I did looking into it, 1 in 3 asylum seekers get approved, but the waiting list is like in the millions. It's a very long waiting list. So at the very least, technically speaking, when you look at the numbers, Kilmar will have to stay in the country if he's on this waiting list anyway. That's my opinion. And again, the Kilmar team has every right to do what they're going to do. As a lawyer, that's his job. Keep Kilmar in the country as long as possible. Fight this case. But at the same time, the Trump admin is seeing this as like, you can do whatever you want, but we're still going to deport Kilmar. So that's currently where we are at with the Kilmar-Obrego case and story. Unfortunately for Kilmar, I just don't think he qualifies for asylum. I mean, he's going to need a miracle in order to get approved for this. But go and look into the numbers. Only 1 in 3 people really qualify for asylum. It is such a hard and strict process, and this is something, again, really for people who have gone through the worst of the worst. It's an amazing thing our country does to give people a second chance. But for Kilmar, at this point, I really do think the Trump admin's like, I don't know how many more chances we can give you. You've already been in the country, you've already been told you have to leave, and so this is becoming problematic for the Kilmar team when the Trump admin has all of this evidence against him, to include these human smuggling charges. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, at this time, Kilmar cannot be deported to Eswatini. He still has to go through his other case as well over in Tennessee, the human smuggling charges. But at this point, Kilmar still does have the opportunity to take this plea deal of going to Costa Rica. I personally do think Kilmar will end up taking that plea deal. I actually don't think he will be deported to Eswatini. I think from the Trump administration, this is just showing that, look, we have more control in this than you think. Even though you're fighting the Trump admin in the courts, it doesn't matter. We can still send you to Eswatini. That is my personal opinion. And again, I really want to make this clear. I don't think people realize how many more rights illegal immigrants really do. Out of all of the illegal immigrants and cases I have followed, without a doubt, the Kilmar case, he's really gotten way more rights than a lot of other illegal immigrants that have been deported as far as chance after chance of fighting this case. But when you look into what the rights are for illegal immigrants, they have way more than people think. And again, for Kilmar, this is good for him. It's good for his defense team. It's good for his family. But for the Trump admin and really the federal government, when it comes to deportations, they really hold the final cards here. Kilmar could have done absolutely nothing wrong, but because he's in the country illegally, he could still be deported. So this is where we are butting heads as far as Trump admin versus Kilmar. Where will he be deported? Not if he's going to be deported, but where will he be deported? So make sure you guys please subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys for everything. God bless, and we'll see you all later.